First of all, I am torn with this pilot episode. I really hate that we did not get the flash forward like they did in all the previous seasons. I am sure they could have come up with something. Like the ultimate one who shot Victoria in the end. Or if Emily was going to die, how exactly that did happen. They could have even killed off Jack or Nolan and made a mystery out of who did it. A nice new twist would have been to show us not who has been shot but who did it. And we had to guess who was shot. Like showing any one of the gang, Nolan, Jack, Emily, or even Daniel standing over a dead body with a gun in their hand. Anyway, I appreciate that they tried for something new for the last season, and I love the idea of Emily living in the manor. But I really wished they gave us a flash forward to have at least something that make you feel at home. I mean, the silly attempt of a new takedown for a total stranger was not that great, but we get to that later. After all, I was glad that they stick to it, giving the actors and sets a new look like they used before. With Nolan getting a new house in season 2 and 3, Jack getting the bar dressed up by Charlotte in the previous season, and everyone getting a new hairstyle and clothes. For me, that is not only keeps the show fresh and is interesting for the audience, it is also natural. Because most people do change their appearance in a year. But let's dive into the first episode of the last season. I really love this first scene. Not only because they really go for reversing the roles by letting Victoria speak the monologue, but also because of this camera tour towards Emily at the cupola. And of course the stunning white dress that makes her look like an angel. Very much like her white dress from season 1 for the engagement photo shooting. The only thing that bothered me in the next episodes that they ditched the monologues. I like that idea that this season could have been about Victoria's perspective. Cause 3 seasons we have seen through Emily's eyes, and looking through David's eyes would just be redundant. So giving Victoria the chance to sell her story to the audience is an intriguing idea. But I guess the writers did not have the guts, so we must stick with this little snippet. Another thing, seeing her walking towards the balcony, this could also add more to her identity crisis. Living in the former Grayson Manor and looking down the cupola. Sure, you see firsthand that Emily did a great job in redecorating and trying to make this big house her own. But this surely does something on her living in the house of her former arch-enemies. About Victoria at therapy. I feared this would happen, cause bringing her in this mental institution was not only a trap for the character but for the plot, too. So it was no wonder that the first priority for the writers was to get her out. This and the next scene were really uncomfortable to watch, cause obviously the writers were not sure where to go here. They at least try to give us some insights on Victoria's mind. But they are just too superficial here. And the other patients seem just to be mere decoration and objects for Victoria's manipulation. The only thing I really enjoyed was the introduction of Louise here. From the first moment I adored Elena Satine. She is just so funny and adorable. And a true beauty. Though she looks a bit like a Barbie doll. One thing about the style of the leading ladies. I must admit I do not really like Emily's style this season. It's too much pastel and 80s vibe for me. But I certainly love Louise's and Nolan's style. They really are a power couple this season. About this we will talk when they actually meet in the next couple of episodes. Anyway, with this first dress and her red hair, she looked like a fresh breath of air. And I really enjoyed her scenes in this season. Here comes what I mean with superficial and troubled. I know this is not a documentary and no behind the scenes of mental institutions show. However, I always feel uncomfortable when I watch these cliches of doctors and patients in mental health institutions. I mean, could they not show her in a group of drug addicts or depressed patients? Why does it always have to be this psychotic patients that go nuts and violently aggressive from one minute to another? And the doctor, I am not quite sure, but I think I have seen him in American Horror Story before. They had quite a good season called Asylum, in which they really showed what was going on and recaptured a true scandal that was brought to light by a journalista in the 60s or 70s, I think. Here he seems just to be a prison ward for Emily. All in one sentence, I was happy when this subplot was over and they got rid of it in the first episode. About Nolan renaming the manor. This was fun. Especially his pun stating Emily does not know how her real name is. A nice way to remind us of her identity crisis, which will take full form in this season. But I am Team Emily in this. She seems to be pretty sure that she wants to stay in her fake persona. Since everyone besides Nolan who knew her true identity is dead. So there is no need in changing who she is again. And with the house, I cannot understand why they need a name. I mean, do they not have streets and house numbers in the Hamptons? Grayson Manor was surely not the post address of this mansion. And if they really want to rename it, why not go with Emily's house or Thorne Mansion? Talking about fashion and style. This first outfits of the two are just so dreadful. Though I like the contrast. Nolan's again going over the top with the striped sweater and those flower shorts. And Emily looks fresh yet functional and a bit boring in her white trousers with the blue shirt. Interesting that she is wearing a lot of blue this season. Especially at the beginning. Maybe to underline her state of mind. As she is still not over the loss of Aiden, which we will see later. Cause despite this happy dispute here, she is still devastated. And I think that is the true reason why she did not want to go back to live in the beach house. As I said in the last episode, with Aiden's death and Victoria putting him on display in that way. The beach house is now even more filled with bad memories. Not only from that day that turned Amanda's life upside down, but the moment that destroyed her happy future with Aiden. Another association they wanted to create is maybe the relationship to her father. That she has been loyal and true to him and his legacy. And last but not least, of course, they are returning to the maritime theme since both houses are laying at the beach. Nolan trying to find out if Emily is up to something was fun, too. And not only me was suspicious because her answer was always no. Her red lipstick should have been a warning, like throwing a Memorial Day party like Victoria used to. Emily's reaction to Nolan's quote speaks for itself. Like she later says in her quarrel with Nolan. After Aiden's death she has nothing left but her hate. So Emily and Victoria are very much in the same position here. The only thing that keeps them both moving is the hate for each other. About David's return. I must admit, in the first couple of episodes I gave the writers the benefit of a doubt. Cause I know that they like to give us only bits and pieces until we have passed some episodes. But the riddle about David's return was poorly solved. And I can relate to anyone who says it would have been better to never have asked that question if they had no good answer for it. I mean, what the hell did he do in the meantime? I get that he was thinking his little girl was dead. But did he not know he had another daughter? And why did he kill Conrad in what it seems such a hurry and never cared to find Victoria? Or did he just not find her because Emily had guarded her whereabouts as such a secret? And why did he not visit the grave of his daughter? Or went to see Nolan, for instance? They never gave us a good explanation for his behavior and a real bad one about his whereabouts in all those years. So yeah, this was a great disappointment. About Daniel's demise. Another cliché Daniel fulfills this season. The spoiled heir of a fallen titan. But I really like his redemption arc here. And it is too bad that he and Margaux do not get their happy end. I know she had to have a reason for hating Emily. But could it not have been that she was involved in the murder of her father? I mean, that must have been enough. And it was something they could have solved. This whole mess with Daniel and Victoria feeding each other with more hate at Emily. Anyway, Daniel was again moving between two extremes. Here he is a real douchebag and show-off. Later we get to see his caring and soft side again when he is helping Charlotte and even selling his car for her. And I just loved the on-off relationship with Margaux. As I said, they got me really rooting for the two. And like with Aiden and Emily, I still wished we had seen a happy end for this pairing. About Jack becoming a police officer and Emily's new love interest. I think we all can agree that these two plot lines were the worst ideas from season 4. I mean, how could they come up with this? No offense, but Jack is a bartender and did some shady stuff in season 3. He wanted to kill Conrad and Victoria at the end of season 2. And by the end of season 3 he was deeply involved in Emily's revengenda. So how the hell could he think it would be a good idea becoming a police officer? And how could he afford the apprenticeship? Was he still working as a bartender somewhere else? And do not get me started on Ben Hunter. Why the hell did they give us this really unworthy and unfulfilling romantic couple? I mean, they started not bad with him being struck by Emily and she just rejecting him. They could have stick to that and make Emily actually date Jack in the meantime. For God's sake, they could have even made the two break up over some misunderstanding or any not so important thing, so that they could reunite in the finale. Anything would have been better than seeing Emily being together with this police officer. Why would she date some of Jack's colleagues? I mean, even for Emil's standard, this is some kind of rude and ruthless hurting and humiliating Jack that way. And even though both actors tried, they had no chemistry. I always complain about the lack of potential between Emily and Nick Wexler as a romantic couple. But at least they worked together as friends. Emily and Brian Hallisey just seem not to work. Maybe they wanted to play it out this way if you think about the end of their relationship. But nearly every scene of the two together had those strange vibes and were uncomfortable to watch. Anyway, as a new character and Jack's colleague, it worked. I like his ambition to solve the Conrad Grayson murder and that he becomes a problem for both Emily and Jack. But being Emily's love interest was just too much. He should have stayed in friend zone. Especially since they made us believe it was Jack's turn now. No offense, Brian Hallisey is making a good job here. But he just cannot compete with Jack or Nolan. It would have been even more realistic if Emily would have reconsidered her relationship with Daniel or finally hooked up with Nolan. So like most of the audience, I was just waiting for her to leave Ben and run into Jack's arms. About Emily's car crash and her mini takedown. This was well choreographed and I like the connection here. That the girl Emily wants to revenge lost her fiancé too. And the twist with this douchebag who has more money than he can spend and is so spoiled that he is searching thrills by having an affair while managing a boat was a nice side plot. But it just felt not right. Though I must admit that I understand this was the point here. Again, they want to show us how unhealthy Emily's behavior is and how much she already is addicted to her revengenda. Cause instead of this franchise idea at the end of the season, that girl did not ask for Emily's help. She just assumed that this would help her cope with the loss. Because this is what Emily does. Anyway, I love the unusual hip-hop song here and Emily's remark that she buys Nolan a new car. This and the reaction of that woman reminds me of how spoiled Emily actually is. She just knows no money problems. About Jack and Charlotte. Like I said, it is such a shame that Emily dragged those two into her mess. She not only wrecked her relationship with Charlotte but also the one Jack had to her after Formunder's death. They got so close attached over their common loss. And now she is that full of hatred towards Jack. But I must admit that I love how Charlotte changed from the end of season 3 to the beginning of season 4. After Declan's death and her miscarriage, she was only the victim and became it again when Emily kidnapped her. But in season 1 and at the first half of season 3 she was really nasty. In the first season they only let her play the spoiled rich teenage girl who plots against her class comrades. In season 3 she stuck together with her mother to save Daniel from marriage life with Emily and played with the feelings of her brother and his ex-girlfriend Sarah. That was bad enough, but now she seems to become a real psychopath like her parents. How she is threatening Jack and even baby Carl, who she thinks is her nephew. She really gives us some good reasons to hate her this season. And I love her grown-up look since season 3. She looks more stylish and the floating skirts and dresses really underline her tall and thin figure. About Victoria accidentally calling Emily. I know we should be on Emily's side, but sometimes, like in this scene, she is making it hard. I think this could have been the overall theme of the last season. How far Emily will go, and will she become like her enemies the Graysons in the end? But the conversation was fun since both women are still full of hatred. And even though Victoria seems to try to make peace, cannot hold her tongue for long. About Emily and Jack. This look of him just breaks my heart. Even though he looks a bit ridiculous in his uniform. Speaking about clothes, this was one of Emily's outfits I would totally wear. I love jeans, and the white blouse with the blue embroidery just looks fabulous on her. I always loved her casual style, and it is nice seeing it back. Talking about chemistry again. What I enjoyed this season is how uncomfortable Emily feels in Jack's presence. Since season 1 it was Jack who was intimidated by her and later mostly angry with her for obvious reasons. But after allowing Jack being part of her agenda and growing into friends again, it seems as if Emily is now holding back. And it is not only because of her loss or Jack's loss, which surely made their bond even stronger. I think she is afraid of allowing her feelings for Jack to grow. Maybe she thinks if she would go for it after Aiden's death that she would in some kind betray him. So she goes the safer way with Ben, whom she obviously does not love, in order not to diminish her feelings for Aiden. About their conversation. As much as I like this scene and all the outward appearances, I just hate their conversation. Why they are never talking about the elephant in the room. Instead they give us this really unimportant and too detailed information about why Jack has become a cop. As if anyone would care. Even worse, since he mentions Charlotte, they just do not talk about her mental health issues and that she might suffer from PTSD. After all Emily put her through in the finale of season 3. I would at least expect that she was a little more concerned about her sister. Especially since she is claiming only to stay in the Hamptons because of Charlotte. I must admit I really like Nick Wexler's performance this season. This angry little man he portrayed since Formunder's death in season 2 was unnerving. But now he seems to go for more nuances, which I like, since his feelings for Emily have become more and more complicated. Especially since he knows who she really is and what she was doing with the Graysons. His look here is hard to analyze. Does he feel sorry for Emily? Does he regret not having asked her out? Is he concerned about Charlotte and Emily's relationship to her? Or is he just wondering if Emily will cause him any trouble as police officer? I like that when the actor is able to convey all those different emotions in one look. About Victoria and Louise. It was pretty much obvious what they did here. But I like how it will turn out in the long run. 'Cause Louise is maybe the last victim of Victoria Grayson and the last person she manipulated to her will. About Emily and Aiden. Like the audience itself, Emily has not recovered from finding Aiden dead in the last episode. Though I would have liked seeing her hooking up with Jack. I appreciate that they take the time to make us feel her loss again. After all, Aiden was her true soulmate, and with their on and off relationship he was maybe, after Nolan, the one person who knew her best and of course one of the longest relationships in her life. Only Formunder and Nolan knew her longer, and besides Jack also knew her real identity. So after Formunder's death this was the most hard loss Emily had to face. Fitting, showing us some flashbacks to reconnect with Emily's emotions. Though for me it was more interesting that her father is actually hiding in the beach house. A funny reminiscence, since in season 1 they showed us how Victoria and Conrad were walking around in the beach house, while Amanda was hiding in the same spot where David is right now. I like those little remarks that show appreciation of detail knowledge. By the way, I love this blue sweater she is wearing in several episodes. It looks so cozy and comfy. I wish I had found this one. But I only got a pink one with this color gradient. Since blue is my favorite color, I would love to have such a sweater. Anyway, she looks very girlish and fragile in this scene. With the open hair and those little hair clasps. About Emily's party. I think besides the takedown this was really kind of boring. Believing that Emily really could make a new friend with this girl that despises everything Emily stands for was just ridiculous. Charlotte spiting her venom against Emily as usual. And even Nolan's idea with the sofa throne for Emily was not very inventive or surprising. Though I like his entrance and the blue suit. Really brave and ambitious even for Nolan's taste. Speaking about fashion. I adore Emily's rose dress. Though I have seen this dress in several other TV shows. But since we had that wordplay of Nolan in season 1 about the one who plays with roses getting the thorns. A red rose is maybe the most fitting flower for Emily. I think besides her wedding dress, of course, this one was my favorite dress of Emily in this season. The other ones do not really stand out. I like that the style is totally different from her other dresses since season 1. Emily was mostly wearing form-fitting dresses that showed off her sporty figure. But this one looks more like a princess dress with the circle skirt. And I like her hairstyle on one side. I think she wore that only twice. For the first time with curls in season 1 when she was meeting Daniel's grandfather. And of course, who could forget in the first episode of season 2, when she wore that stunning red dress and tried to show Daniel what he has lost. I think that was my favorite hairstyle of her in that season because she looked so effortlessly beautiful. Even though I said in that episode talk the earrings were a bit too much, but I like that they show off her jewelry with this hairstyle. About Gideon and Charlotte. When did this happen? Sure, her brother Daniel and Margaux are tight, but how did she get to know Gideon? And does Daniel know about this? Since he knows firsthand how dangerous Margaux's brother is. Charlotte has just such a crappy taste in men. Only Declan was a decent guy who tried to make it right with her. Every other boyfriend had a criminal record like Javier or just wanted no good with Charlotte like her first drug dealer boyfriend and Gideon now. About Emily and Margaux. Interesting that in this scene it seems as if they would go along this season. Considering how everything goes down, it is surprising that Margaux is actually apologizing to Emily. Maybe they want to establish that Emily has won in any regards, so Margaux is just one of her trophies like Daniel, who seems to have major money issues. About Jack and Ben. They really go all in with Ben being struck by Emily. I mean, she is wearing this not at all sexy princess dress, but he refers to her as if she is wearing a bikini. What the hell? And why does Jack not make it clear for Ben that she is off limits? His vague utterance, their status is complicated, does not even cover it. But I really enjoy how funny Ben Hunter is in this scene. I totally forgot about this because I can only remember being angry with Emily and fighting about her and Jack. About Jack trying to help Charlotte. I knew this was a huge mistake and Ben should have insisted on bringing her to the station. Maybe a night in custody would have brought Charlotte a little more down to earth. And Jack is not doing her a favor by looking the other way. He just ignores her downward spiral. But they did a great job in pointing out Ben's character. 'Cause he is more than correct, and this will be a huge problem for him when it comes to Emily and her vendetta with Victoria. I like this little scene though. First of all because Jack is the only one again who gives a damn about Charlotte and even threatens Gideon. And I like this little tableau here with Charlotte being stubborn like a little kid, while Jack is thoughtful enough to ruin her cocaine. 'Cause she surely would have taken the rest of it after he was gone. About Victoria's outbreak. This was fun at first watch but gets really annoying in the long run. For itself the scene is fun but it just seems not to fit in the episode. About Nolan helping to put an end to Gideon. I know he does this not only to help Emily's little sister, but it is good that someone finally tries to help her. 'Cause she is obviously not in the position to see how her life is going down when she keeps following this path of self-destruction. This scene reminds me how I missed Nolan's one-liners. The little conversation with Jack and Margaux is just filled with bon mots of him. About Emily's takedown. Like everyone else I knew something was wrong with this couple. It was pretty obvious after the story about that woman's fiancé that Emily does not help them out of a good heart. She was planning something and Nolan's reaction here shows exactly what was on my mind. Emily just cannot help it and he was stupid to think she would let go of her addiction. Though I am with Nolan that this was a mistake, it is surely better that the truth came to light. But as the woman tells Emily, for her it does not change anything. Even worse, it just reopens old wounds. Something Emily is familiar with but she does it herself on purpose. The rage over injustice and hurt feelings in the past is what keeps her going. But this woman shows us and Emily a more healthy way of dealing with loss and pain. And I love her last sentence because again it is so simple but true.
Nothing can bring back the people we love. Nothing.
And of course it shows Emily's dilemma and tragic. The quarrel with Nolan just brings it to light. After Aiden's death and with Jack pursuing his own life goals, Emily has nothing left. She has no family, no husband, and her revenge agenda is over. Too bad that Nolan did not make his threat true. If he had spilled her secret it would have been a lot easier in the next couple of episodes. The next scene with the phone call has one of my favorite quotes from the entire show in it. They really go in deep here.
She was never like me. No one is.
You're a snowflake. A unique, bloodthirsty snowflake.
And that's just it, isn't it? That thirst has become a part of me. I don't know who I am without it. Maybe I don't want to.
I love the atmosphere they create with the fireplace and the smooth light. His metaphor with the snowflake is just so beautiful and shows again how much he actually adores Emily. But her problem will stay till the very end. Who will she be when everything is over, and can she exist without the revenge game? About Victoria threatening Emily. It speaks for itself that she goes straight to Emily after fleeing the mental institution. From this moment on, Victoria just lives to ruin Emily's life. Being in defense for 3 years now, she attacks Emily with her own tactics and even worse, using her own family against Emily. Interesting that she is calling her Amanda for the first time. I was expecting it earlier in the face-off at the cemetery. So here it felt not that thrilling. What was thrilling is that Victoria got abducted, and I must admit that I had no idea what David's intention was. I hoped and wished he would take revenge on her since she was the driving force behind framing him. So I was very much disappointed how this turned out in the next episode. At least this was the perfect cliffhanger. 'Cause we do not know exactly what David is planning to do with her.